Means is called to order. I believe it's called to order.
Human Resources called to order.
So is Properties.
Do you have anything on the agenda besides the country manor?
We do have, that was going to follow was the detention program that Tim has to get in by tomorrow or we're losing money.
Well, let's talk about it. Oh, Rob's here. Well, you want to talk about Tim anyway?
No, it's not. It's who, Rob? No, Tim's here for both.
I didn't know.
And that's how we listed it, so it's better to go.
Okay, so everybody should have received a copy of the asset purchase agreement from Advanced Healthcare Management, LLC. Opening up questions to the floor for our attorney, Mr. Malone.
Rob wants to run through that.
What's that?
I think Rob wants to run through.
Well, that might be a good point. Maybe
run
Rob
through it
wants to.
quickly.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a thank you.
No,
We have one?
What's that?
Kind
I can use what I.
You got one? No.
I've got an extra one here. Somebody would like it.
Well,
Can't count it.
What's that?
A lot of the information here is what they call boilerplate. As Rob can talk about that.
Yeah, it's a well-drafted agreement submitted to us by the council for advanced healthcare. It came through with, in a very rough form. The attorney was in the process of doing a number of things, and I made basically some technical suggestions about corrections. A lot of times these agreements will be based on other agreements that may be applicable to the private sector and that sort of thing. So I made some just technical suggestions to him about things that I thought, some of them are typos, some of them are just a choice of words, but no substantial changes were made in the proposal based on any input that I had. This is the offer that they've made to us. Anybody who has one, right to page 4. The real property is the main thing, and that's going to be an attached schedule. The schedule isn't attached, but it's going to be the land on the east side of Route 28 only. Will not include the land on the west side. That's where that old fire tower is and where the sheriff's shooting range is. The Remington is presently using. That is not contemplated to be included. So the land on the east side only. And it includes basically everything up there except items that we exclude. Not only the real property, but any personal property that's there would also be included in the purchase. And we're in the process of working on what, if anything, may or may not be excluded. To page 6, the purchase price is $335,000. It's right at the top, 3.1.1. And then if you drop down to 3.2.1, it talks about what's going to happen. Basically, they will execute and deliver to us a promissory note secured by a mortgage, but over the period of 5 years, the amount due on the promissory note will decrease by 1/5. So basically, if they stay in operation for 5 years, at the end of 5 years, there'll be no further balance due to the county. So if they go out of business during the first year, they owe us $335,000 or transfer it to an unaffiliated entity. Second year, $268,000. Third year goes down to $201,000. Fourth year, $104,000. Fifth year, $67,000. In addition, if you go to the next page, page 7, 3.4, the proposals for the county would pay them $18,000 per month towards operating expenses for 1 year. And we would execute and deliver a promissory note to them for that. So it'll be an exchange of notes. And that would be paid every month.
The way they've done this purchase, the promissory note,
yes,
will withstand muster in regards to the gift issue.
We have to anticipate a challenge, particularly from the union, on that question. And the question is going to be whether or not the county offering to continue this service, albeit offered by a private entity rather than by the county, and allowing the residents to remain in the facility is worth something to the taxpayers. In addition to stopping the hemorrhage to the tune of, what is it, about $500,000 a year loss that the county is suffering every year by continuing operating it. This stops that loss, allows the facility to remain in existence, allows the residents to stay there so long as they qualify, and we'll come to that. And the employees, and I was just coming to the next part, the employees would have an opportunity perhaps to be employed there, but that would be between the current employees and the new owner. So, whether the courts would agree with that, that will be something we have to measure when the time comes. I think it's a very good basis for this agreement. It's rational. It serves the interests of county taxpayers, and I think well within the discretion of the legislature to go this route if they want to. So I'm comfortable defending it from a challenge which I expect we'll have from CSCA. Page 8, paragraph 4.3. Buyer at its option may elect to offer employment to our employees after closing. But they're not bound to do so. They are not bound by our collective bargaining agreement. They are not bound by our employee benefit plans. That's what is on page 8. The next item I have flagged, and again, a lot of boilerplate here. Page 11, 7.7, they're taking the place and everything in there as is. Very important from our perspective.
Rob, you said everything in there as is?
As is. That's on
and
page
that's
11, paragraph 7.7.
Right, and that's to be gone over with the attorneys as far as what's going to go, or are we going to decide, you know, desks and...
The contract is set up, Jim, so that everything goes except what we specifically ask to be excluded, and that would have to be negotiated. Everything there is sold as is.
Which is,
Meaning no guarantee, no warranty. If the washing machine breaks, we don't have to go fix it.
As is where it is.
Taking its present condition.
Rob, is there any burden on us to disclose anything that may be wrong?
There would be a general requirement of any seller to disclose any hidden or latent defects of which we are aware, which they would not be able to discover with a routine inspection. And that obligation exists on basically any real estate sale. But you'll see on page 12, at the top, paragraph 7.9, they have 45 days to make full inspection of the property, equipment, inventory, and all other assets.
what date it is?
On page 12, paragraph 7.9.
How many times have they been up there, though? Have they been up there?
I'm sure they've made inspections. But once a contract is signed, and if there's a 45-day waiting period, inspections can become much more pointed, and people begin to pay very close attention to things. So there's a 45-day period if and when a contract is signed for them to go in and make any inspections they wish to. And if they can, after any time during that 45-day period, by the way, cancel the agreement for a year.
Is 45 days a normal amount of time?
I think anywhere from 30 to 90. The larger the transaction, probably the longer period of time people have to inspect. So 45 is certainly reasonable in my opinion. And you'll see if you go all the way to page 14, paragraph 9.1.1, they can make such reasonably necessary examinations, inspections, surveys, and audits. And just so you understand the process of the attorney in this, I asked that the word reasonably necessary examination be put in, not any examination. We don't want them going overboard and doing things that might be too disruptive and that sort of thing. So if we feel that the inspection process is going overboard, we have the ability to say, wait a minute, that's not reasonable. just so you understand how, what some people had questions about the attorney process. That's basically what it is. If you go to page 15, 10.5, the Commissioner of the Department of Health shall have issued an approval order with respect to the transaction. That is one of the conditions of closing. They must have the Department of Health approval. And you'll see in paragraph 10.8 right below it, one of their conditions is a 20-year tax abatement for the property. Okay. That would be handled by the IDA, not by the county. And again, just so you understand the process here, I indicated to the attorney, it's been attorney to attorney, that the usual, as my understanding is 10 years, but they wanted the 20-year condition in there. So that'll be between the proposed purchaser and the IDA in the event that this is signed.
Well, can I ask you about that?
Yes.
They're asking for a 20-year abatement of property taxes. Usually with the IDA, you get a percentage of abatement, right?
Yes, you get a 10-year pilot.
So they're looking for paying no taxes at all for 20 years?
That's left, I think, intentionally vague by them, that they are looking for a tax abatement, probably for as much as they can get.
Okay.
And then they would have the option of deciding whether to go forward. If they said, no, it's not enough of an abatement, or we didn't get 20 years, they would have the option of backing away at that point.
The IDA, by the way, was apprised of the situation today. We had an IDA meeting. I mentioned that there was one of the items in the contract that they'll probably come to the IDA for some type of abatement. So I gave them fair warning. And Rob, you mentioned that it's got to happen after. I mean, just so if the IDA says no, they can break this off.
They would have the option of withdrawing from the contract. It's their due diligence period, and their due diligence will include all these types of things. What's it going to cost them, what tax abatements do they have, and they have to get all their necessary approvals. So if you did agree to something, we then have to wait while they go through that process to see if the deal works out. There's no guarantee.
Rob,
yes.
is this contingent on them getting a license from the state, or have you already gotten it?
Yes, Pete, it's contingent on getting a license. And that's, I just mentioned that's on page 15. One of their contingencies, Commissioner of Department of Health shall issue an approval order with respect to this transaction, and that's again on the next page, paragraph 11.5, page 16. Conditions precedent, Commissioner of Department of Health shall issue an approval order.
How long do you usually take to get these licenses?
I just got an email, that's why I was 1 minute late. The email just did come, I asked for an anticipated deadline today. The approval process is generally they estimate 6 months from the time any agreement is signed. And so here we are on page 17, you'll see there is a blank. Paragraph 13.1.4, they can terminate, we can terminate if the closing has not taken place on or before, and I asked them for that date. And that date would be, their proposal is 7 months from the time the contract is signed.
Rob?
Yes, ma'am.
If we accepted this, are we automatically accepting 10.8 tax abatement?
If you accepted this, yes, you're leaving it open to them. If they don't get a tax abatement that they like, they can withdraw.
I understand that, but do we have any say in that?
No.
We have no say.
No, and it says that.
But the question is if we say 10.8 tax abatement, okay, that's okay with us, does that put us in any kind of a
Commitment.
No.
commitment? Yeah,
No, if you look at the preceding page, Article 10 says, the heading, conditions preceding or precedent, we'll say preceding, to obligations of purchaser. And so, if they don't get that, then they are not obligated to go forward. The purchaser is not obligated. That's all that it means. There's no commitment on our part to grant any tax abatement. And that's another, again, when I was discussing this with council, I said, no, originally it was Herkimer County. I said, no, it's not Herkimer County, it's the IDA. We have nothing to do with that. So that language has been clarified to say purchaser obtaining from the Herkimer County Industrial Development Agency or any other agency or entity, as the case may be, an agreement that allows for a 20-year abatement of property taxes. So it gives them an out if they want it.
Right, I just don't.
Rob, what number is that? I'm sorry.
That's on page 15, Jim, paragraph 10.8.
You know, I'm just.
What were you just reading there, Rob?
That's what I was reading, paragraph 10.8.
But prior to that,
I was
we
reading
started the
that-
IDA.
That was it. Purchaser obtained from the Herkimer County Industrial Development Agency,
Okay,
10.8.
okay.
That's not on us.
That's not the county, it's the IDA.
Yes,
Okay.
Herkimer County Industrial Development
I
Agency.
mean, I don't know if it would be in our best interest to say to people, hey, yeah, we want people to get activated.
Would it be wrong if it said purchaser may obtain from the Herkimer County Industrial Development Agency?
Well, that's why you have to go back to the heading of Article 10,
Okay.
and then read the paragraph right under it. The obligation of purchaser to proceed with closing under this agreement is subject to the fulfillment prior to the specified date or the time of closing of the following conditions. So this is their, if they don't get this, their obligation to close ceases. That's the only effect.
Here,
Yeah, so we don't know if they're asking, normally the 5-year plan is start out 50% every year goes up. Are they asking for 100% or we don't know?
We're not involved in that process. That'd be handled by the IDA, which has its own board, and its own approval
he
process.
said he left.
Well, would they ask you?
What's that?
But you had to file the application.
That's not up, I made it clear that it's not up to Herkimer County. We're not getting involved.
Gary,
I do-
Gary, they'll file that, once this is signed, they'll file an application with the IDA, and then the IDA will go through their process.
Okay, and as far as, I have a little problem with the premise that we have no say. Granted, the IDA is a separate entity. We do appoint some of the members. I was thinking back to when Niagara Mohawk bought some land in Herkimer, and prior to that, the then chairman of the IDA and I had a discussion, Mr. Contino, and he promised me that he would give the local officials some say in the matter. And so NIMO was buying property from the village. In the end, they wanted a tax abatement. And Mr. Contino called me, and I said the village wasn't interested in that, and they didn't get it, and they stayed anyway. I mean, granted, the IDA can do what they want, but
Well, they usually don't.
they have some.
I don't disagree with your statement, Gary.
I think the IDA is, I'm not speaking for the IDA, but I'm a director on there. They're cognizant of the situation. They realize that, 20 years is a long time.
My concern is that we would be saying, okay.
I guess what I was trying to say, Rob, is it okay for us to say something different?
Well, this is the offer from this agency.
I think that's what, sounds like that's what
I
everybody's
went
trying
back
to
with a
get.
suggestion.
Yeah.
I said the most I've seen is 10 years on these types of agreements. And what came back from the attorney was they wanted 20. Their client was wanted to ask for 20.
So,
And
Rob,
let's make it clear something too. Counties cannot give tax abatements. You can't give people breaks on their taxes. That's why there are IDAs. It's a completely separate entity, a completely separate board, a completely separate process. We cannot be involved in that. We can't give tax abatements. It's a violation of law, and we don't do that. So we're out of that. And that's really not part of our negotiation. It can't be part of it.
Rob, is there anything more that you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, keep
Yep.
going. And then we go back.
So, down to the last couple of really important issues.
20 years is a long time.
Page 17. Again, that'll be 7 months. As I told them, I need to be able to tell the committee tonight how long, if the committee approves this and then the legislature approves it on September 12th, how long are we talking about before the county can say, okay, that's it, we're done? 7 months. And that's what would go on 13.1.4. And then the last item, of course there are many, many others, but I'm hitting the highlights. The last item is on page 22. Paragraph 15.13, facility residents. And this is, the heading in this section. Just general.
22.
Page 22, Dennis.
Yeah,
Paragraph 15.13. And I know the legislature for years has indicated this is important. Purchaser will allow the current residents of the facility to remain residents of the facility as long as their needs can be met in accordance with all state and federal health care regulations. So they've put it in black and white, a contractual commitment to allow the residents to remain as long as it's compliance with federal and state guidelines. So that is the proposal that's before you, and I'm your mercy, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Bob?
Robert, don't you think that we're putting a cart before the horse? I mean, wouldn't you think they would have applied for the 1-year abatement before they even came to us?
They don't own it.
Pardon me?
They don't own it. You have to own it for
You have to own it before.
You have to own it or have a
Intention,
purchase.
intended lease.
This is standard operating procedure, Bob, that if you're going to buy something, first you want to see if you can buy it, you get the seller to sign the contract, and then you go see if you can get all your permits.
Right.
And all your conditions, and those are contingencies. And you give yourself a period of time to get the contingencies satisfied, and then if you get them, you close. It happens whenever you buy a house on mortgage financing, because a financing contingency, you know, a septic contingency, a well, a home inspection. You sign the contract, you put the contingencies in, then you go see if you can get them taken care of.
Yeah, they don't want to waste their time if they're not going to.
Right, correct. No, I understand.
It's a standard business or real estate purchase.
The other thing you did, they did state that they were going to keep the residents are there until they're unable to stay there according to state law, right? That was what your last statement was.
State and federal health care, 15.13.
Right.
Purchaser will allow the current residents of the facility to remain residents of the facility as long as their needs can be met in accordance with all state and federal health care regulations.
Okay, that's good, that's what I want to hear. But the other question is, actually, Jim, you might speak in on this because, like, okay, the workers there, aren't they county workers? Are we going to get in a squabble with CSEA on are they allowed to bump people?
Yeah, there's certain bumping rights within the contract.
That's what I mean. So they would be able to.
Absolutely. That happened with the job.
I mean, how many full-timers is there up there right now, Jim? Do you know?
I looked at 10.
Okay. How many full-timers?
21.
21. Wow. And with the part-time workers, are they allowed to bump, Jim?
What's that?
Are they allowed to bump part-time workers?
No, they're not over. The CSEA, Bob, you got to have at least 520 hours in 6 months.
Okay.
So if somebody was over that, just happened to happen for that half a year, and it goes half a year, then they would be eligible.
Right.
My understanding is none of those people are eligible.
Also, none of the part-timers
Part-time.
are. But the full-timers are eligible if they decided to bump. Okay. And we're going to allow that to happen, right?
Yeah,
We have no choice.
We have a contract with CSEA to do
All right,
that.
okay.
And we did that with the job.
All right.
Well, there's two,
What page is it?
page 4 to start with, where they're talking about tax. And could you explain the difference between 21.4 versus 21.4 and 2.2.1?
2.1.4 on page 4.
And then page 5, 2.2.1. The one has the patient's funds are excluded. Now, is that the donation fund you're talking about there, the exclusion?
The 2.1.4 are patient funds, and they're talking about if we're holding patient funds for the patients in an escrow type of account where we keep their money for them. No, this is the patient's money. Whoever the patients get the money. This is.
Okay.
If I end up there and I have $1,000 or $10,000, and I say, hey, will you take care of this for me? A lot of facilities have an escrow account where they'll hold the money for you.
Okay.
This says we're going to turn over those escrow accounts to the new owner. We're not going to keep them. That's what 2.1.4 says.
Okay.
And what was the other one, Fred?
2.2.1.
Yeah.
And then it says excluding.
We're not giving them the county's cash. It says we aren't giving them the county's cash.
All right, let's come back.
You know, if they were buying a private business and the business had a bank account, the business would make sure that, no, we're not turning over our bank account to you, so
Right.
we're keeping all
But
cash.
there's also a donation fund that the treasurer keeps track of for the patients, for, making sure what we've all included with it. Is that mentioned anywhere in here?
No, it's not mentioned specifically, and we'd have to figure out what makes sense. What makes sense with that.
Is it, Fred, is that in the
We're
county's hands? Or is the county in charge of that? Or is it some individual?
They
up there?
have a separate account for that.
Okay. No, I'm saying, is it in the county's hands, or is it in the individual's hands up there?
No, that's in the county's hands for the patient. That's where donations are.
And I think that would cover that, that would keep that.
We'd have to identify what it is, like I said, and see if it's an escrow account of some kind, or if it's county monies, and then do what makes sense for the benefit of the residents. I think that's what all of you will want to happen. And so that's what our job will be, to make sure that makes sense. Tim will be involved.
Right.
It wouldn't go to the benefit of the county, it would go to the benefit of the residents in some fashion.
One question, I mean, as I read that last night, it didn't stipulate, I didn't see anything in there stipulating that they will keep it up to a certain standard. See if they close after a year or 2 years, if they let it go in disrepair. I don't see it, I don't see anything in there.
Well, it's closely regulated by the state, and if they let it run down and close, they're going to owe us a lot of money if that happens within 5 years.
Right.
They have to pay us. And you have a mortgage on the place to secure that also.
Right.
So if they're in breach of this agreement and don't keep it open, they have to pay. That's the hammer that you have. So it keeps it simple. We're not going to keep in the operating business or send people up there checking it over. They're regulated closely by the Department of Health, by the state. And we'll let the state do that end of it, and while we, make sure that they comply with the agreement and remain open, or they owe us money and we foreclose that mortgage if we have to. So it's set up as a business-like, but relatively simple structure, easy to monitor and control.
What's the guarantee, though, that they would have to pay us if they close? I mean, they've got a promissory note, but if they put it into a corporation, it has no assets.
That's why we have a mortgage. We can foreclose. We can take the property back and then sell it to collect what we're owed. No matter who owns it.
So if they went bankrupt, we could still take it back?
Yes, our mortgage would be slowed down by the bankruptcy process, but we can still foreclose. Let's go to bankruptcy court and get permission, but we can still take the property back. We'd have priority.
This is probably a wild question. They can't use that as equity, though, right? They can't use, within the 5 years, they can't use that as equity to go out and purchase something else. They can't put that on.
Well, they could put a second mortgage on it if they thought somebody was interested. I don't think they would. It wouldn't affect us. We come first. No matter what that comes after us, we come first. We foreclose, we get them.
Okay.
If there's money left over after the foreclosure sale for anybody else, then they get a piece.
Now, Rob, if we vote on this, we need 12 people on this, right?
Yes, you need 12 votes out of the full legislature.
Is there any other, if this was passed, is there any other things that would have to come before us, or is this the same?
The only other thing we haven't settled on yet, and we would settle on all of this for presentation of to the full legislature, is what, if anything, do we want to keep? It's out there. There's some odds and ends. And is there anything that would be useful to the county that we want to keep? We don't know how strongly they feel. And then if you look at the last page, page 23, these have not been attached yet. There's a list of schedules. And all of those would be developed prior to the time the contract is signed. It's a list of patient agreements. So I don't know if we have signed agreements with the patients, but if we do, we give them a list. A list of provider agreements, anyone who is going to be providing services at the facility after we close. A list of our employees. A list of permitted encumbrances. Encumbrances, it's like the railroad right-of-way that runs north and south there. That's an encumbrance on the property, basically. It's a right-of-way that passes through. Actually, I think I don't know if it's a right-of-way they own it. So that's the type of thing that go there. Description of the real property. List of excluded assets. List of any other contracts. List of our permits. The promissory note to the seller. That's their promissory note to us. The allocation of the purchase price, and that's how you break down what's being paid based on the nature of the asset, and that can have accounting and tax ramifications for them, not for us. And then the promissory note to the purchaser, that's the monthly payment we'll be making to them. So, and all those schedules have to be attached, and they would be done based under my supervision. I would be preparing any number of them. I would be reviewing the note, and the description of the real property, so on and so forth. And then all that will be presented to the full legislature for a final vote.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
that, do you really believe, at this 20 years are involved, do you really believe you're going to get 12 votes out of here? And if you don't, what happens then?
I didn't understand that. What 20 years?
The abatement.
He's saying it's the,
Yes.
The abatement, the 20-year abatement.
Yeah, we don't even know what they're asking for first, right? It doesn't go to us anyway,
Well,
but we don't know what
but
that
We don't vote on the
They're starting
abatement.
high, though. They're hitting the IDA high. See what they can get.
The idea,
Pat just asked a question about voting on this,
Right.
okay? This 20-year abatement thing, well, what happens, I mean, if we get a vote on this, that 20 years is involved in this, isn't it? Isn't that part of what we're voting on?
No.
Well, no, that's why I said that. It's one of the conditions that they're looking for. But even if they don't get it, it doesn't mean that it's automatically going to be a void contract. They might say, okay, 10 years is good. So that's why I asked.
But if they insist on the 20 years,
Well, that would be the insisting with the IDA, not with us. And if they don't, if they're insisting on the 20 years, then they walk away and it becomes.
I think I know what you're saying.
No.
it's one of the cards they're putting on the table, John, for discussion purposes.
yeah.
That's their purchase, this is their purchase offer.
So what is Pat talking about voting on this? Is this included in the whole package?
We have to vote on accepting their purchase order. This legislature votes on accepting their purchase order. That is a component of their purchase offer, that they be allowed to discuss a property tax abatement. So they're just making that known, that they're going to be discussing this and hope to get a property tax abatement. It's not a deal breaker, it's a potential. But they want it listed as a potentiality of any agreement, that they are allowed to try to get a tax abatement
Okay,
from something like the IDA.
Okay, supposing that they do, and the IDA agrees with it.
We don't have any say in that, though.
Yeah, we don't have any say.
We don't have any say in that, but at the same time, I don't think our IDA is going to do something out of character from what they've done in the past. So somewhere in between is going to be some meeting of the minds on if there is going to be any tax abatement. And if there is, will it be a traditional tax abatement like the IDA has given in the past?
IDA's never given a 20-year abatement, and I don't see, me speaking personally, I don't see it happening.
Too many people would come back to us after.
You remember, this piece of property's never had a
Well, not
tax
to us.
abatement. so-
Or to the IDA. They would come back to the IDA and say, you gave it to them, why didn't you give it to us?
Absolutely, we know it would open a can
Open up
of
a
worms.
can of worms.
So basically what you're saying, I think what I see where John's going here. We're going to vote on this come the 12th, or next week.
If it comes off
Okay,
committee.
if it comes off committee, okay. Then it goes, we're all done voting on it. We're basically saying we're accepting this deal.
It would take
Then it
12
goes,
votes
right, it takes 12 votes.
to
But we
accept,
won't vote it again.
accept this offer.
Exactly,
There
but
will be
we'll,
no further vote.
Exactly.
necessary. It's done.
then it goes to the IDA to make
Well,
their
that's up-
decision.
no.
But it's,
Now, if these people take it to the IDA, it's up to
Right.
them then to take it to the IDA.
right, but we're
We're out.
out of the loop there. Right, John? That's what,
You're finished. That's
Yeah, we're
exactly
finished.
right. This is the vote. If it goes through committee and then gets in front of the legislature, that's one vote you'll take, and that requires 12 votes. It's a supermajority to sell real property no longer needed by the county.
I mean, John, it would be,
Where do we stand on this 20-year abatement then? I mean, is it in there, is it there, or where is it?
Want me to try?
That's,
If this contract, they put in their offer, we want a 20-year tax abatement, and that's one of our conditions. But the county isn't the ones who decides that. So they can go, apply for a 20-year tax abatement. If they don't get the 20-year tax abatement, they can walk away. That's all that happens. The deal is off. That's their option, not ours.
So this coming next Wednesday, is there going to be any mention of that as to
well,
what
that's
we're
what I was
voting
just-
on?
I was
That's
just
what
gonna-
I'm asking.
I was just going to say, if you wanted to say that you would encourage the IDA not to, discuss a 20-year abatement because you're interested in the taxpayers getting, whole, you can obviously say that and still vote for it. I mean, if that's an interest there.
That is. That's my point. I mean, like Jim said, I mean, you gotta have rocks in your head to think that you're gonna go with 20 years.
I won't.
You know what I mean?
Right now, I won't support it.
But it's like you
Pardon me?
going,
I won't support it.
it's like you going to buy a car,
support it either.
but they don't make that color car in red, but you're insisting on the red, and they tell you no, then you walk away. And that's what it gives them the opportunity to be able to walk away.
Well, just even if they were to
But
get
they
a
don't
20-year, even if they were to get a 20-year, doesn't mean you're not receiving taxes. It could be prorated like it is now. Starts off at 50% taxation and it goes up in 10 years, it increases every year by 5%.
Right, but we're
I mean,
assuming,
But we don't know what they're even asking for. We have, it has nothing to do with it. Just like when Walmart went in, they got a 10-year, I mean, it's strictly up to the IDA. It has nothing to do with, I personally think, with the vote. That's up to, that's out of our hands at that point.
Okay, personally, it would look to me if I support this, I'm supporting this 20-year basis. Otherwise, we could ask to strike that portion. Then that's just my personal view. It would look like a note of support. We're supporting this clause in there. I don't go for the view that we have nothing to do with it. We could take it out right now.
You're incorrect in that.
And can I?
The attorney said we may not. We may not grant taxable.
No, we can't grant a tax abatement, but we can say we don't want this clause in this contract. This is the contract that we're supposedly voting on. I'm not. Next week. Can I just said few other questions. And I'll probably have a lot more. I'll email that. The schedule, to me, I could never vote on something without, like, the excluded asset and some of these other schedules there. You said we're going to get it before a signature. Is that after we vote on it?
No, that's not what I said. I didn't say get it before signature. You get it before it's voted on by the full legislature.
And how long in advance before we do something like that?
As soon as the agreement can be reached, we're working on it now.
Okay, these items.
do you see anything up there that you would want to exclude? I mean,
I got the floor here for a minute.
well, I'm asking for you though.
Well, yeah. I do know, having being involved in purchasing where we sell like some kind of medical supplies, vets and things like that, that some of that stuff's rather expensive. Granted, it probably hasn't been upgraded in a while, but I don't think it's worth zero. And I would like to get an appraisal on it. I guarantee a lot of that.
I'm talking about keeping any of that medical stuff. None of it. Anything that's operating the business goes. Just so you know, we're talking about items of equipment,
Tractors.
maybe tractors, mowers,
Whatever.
whatever's run, you can use to run the interior. That country manor goes.
Okay.
Goes with the city.
I understand that, but
This is an asset purchase agreement.
what was the appraisal for the property, was that 300 or 335? I couldn't find mine. I mean, are they paying?
335.
So they're paying zero for all this equipment, never got a break, basically, right?
Yes.
And we're getting a cost avoidance of $550 now.
There's a huge cost savings to the
You have to pay
taxpayers.
$18,000 a month.
And that's what.
Save $339 the first year, paying them the $218.
Do I have the floor, or we got a few
Yeah.
minutes?
Can we settle down here like Gary asked us to?
Now, this Department of Health consent, do you, the attorney, do you have a problem with the fact that we apparently requested to go down to 40 beds? Now we're asking for 80 like this. Are we officially down to 40 beds?
No, we're 80 beds.
No, they make the application, not us.
And have we looked, does anybody have any idea? I mean, granted, the current patients are grandfathered in, but do we have just an idea of availability of adult living facilities once this is gone? It looks like it's not going to be an adult living facility. Do we have adequate resources, private resources?
I don't know why you would say that.
Because they're asking for an ALF license, and once they get that, these people are grandfathered in. They're not going to be able to take adult living
Well, if you look on page 2 at the top, that was another thing we got clarified. Business shall mean the operation of the facility as an adult home and/or assisted living facility, and any other ancillary healthcare services operating in the home. So they're leaving their options open to operate both houses.
There are options, there are.
We continue operating as is unless and until we have a closing. They go through their due diligence, and remember, for the first 45 days, it's just an inspection period. They can walk away at any time. And then they apply for their tax abatement, and depending on what they get, again, they can walk away. So there are lots of opportunities for them not to proceed if they wish to.
Back on July 1st.
Hang on, folks, go ahead.
Back on July 1st, there was a deadline to submit the listing of questions, and Mr. Schrader and Mrs. Rose and I submitted a bunch. We got the short answer to a few from, I think, Mr. Billings. Do we anticipate...
No, not Mr. Billings, that's Steve.
Oh. Well, I'm not...
Jim, is it Billings?
No.
Steve
He wasn't involved.
Steve who?
Reynolds. Right?
Reynolds, like we said, 10, 15 times.
10, 15 times? I'm
Over the last
sorry,
couple
I didn't
months.
hear the 10, 15. For the other 14. So do we anticipate answers to the other ones?
Within the, I don't know.
Because-
I answer the questions, Gary, that you guys asked of the facility. A lot of the other stuff about RFPs and that stuff is a political rhetoric that we've been hearing. So that would be answered within this body. It wouldn't be anything for me to do.
Well, I will send everybody emails, the ones that weren't political rhetoric, because I think you're wrong there. There are a number of legitimate questions that weren't answered. We had a deadline set to submit them. I know there wasn't a deadline to answer them, but we were promised them a few times. It isn't political rhetoric. We're looking at a long-term decision here. If we got some pertinent questions.
Well, he answered all the ones
well,
that he wanted to answer.
that he wanted to answer.
I don't know, is that the case? I wasn't there, so.
Well, they were answered. I saw the email.
I
I think a few of us got a copy of the email.
I will send you the listing of questions and the ones I consider
They were answered.
compared to these 3 answers. 4.
Okay. I think it's just a delay. Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I just want to make a statement. I think you're providing service for all 3 entities that we cared about originally. The residents are going to be taken care of. It's very clear in the contract. The employees are going to be looked at by this company, which I feel is a reputable company. I can't find anything bad on this company, so I'm comfortable there. And also, we're taking care of the taxpayer in this. The property taxpayer that loses $550,000 every year. So we're providing the service while making a savings to taxpayers. We're doing exactly what the public wants us to do.
And there was something else, Mr. Bonham, too, that we expected that a not-for-profit would be taking this over. Now we're looking at putting this property, depending on how many years out, but at some point this property will be back on the tax rolls.
I don't think an opportunity like this will come around again. There's some in here that may want to RFP it again. I don't think you're going to get that offer again. Again, the residents, the employees, and the taxpayers. We're taking care of all 3, and now's the time to do this. Otherwise, the only alternative is to close this down and save the hemorrhaging like we're talking about for the taxpayer. The property taxpayer can no longer bear this. We're county government, we're government in general. We don't do this well. Every other government that has these facilities are closing them down or looking at closing them down because they're bleeding. So, to me, this is simple. It sounds like a good, complete contract. I'm willing to go on. I'm going to support it.
Rob, was that a union, or did they discuss if it was going to be open shop or union shop or what?
They,
Some are, some aren't.
I don't know if there was.
Well, I know some of them. I know they said some of them are, some aren't.
Yeah.
I asked him that question, he said most of them were, but I wasn't in on the last.
Our existing facilities are both.
Right, but obviously they ran figures on this facility. They obviously know what it's going to cost them, union and not union. Did they give you any indication on if they're going union or non-union?
What?
No, and that really wouldn't be any of our business. They did indicate,
Well, no, I know
as
it's-
recall, that
Well, it's my
they
business.
anticipated.
I'm sorry.
I think, but again, we don't know. Most of their shops are union, I think it's the SEIU. They've got three different unions are involved with in their other facilities. And it's a privately operated facility, so employees would have the right to unionize like anyone.
Right.
To organize and form a union, it's a private entity.
But no, I know, I just was curious.
And their payment, they pay pretty well. I had mentioned that, I had written it down before, I don't know if I still have it.
And they are allowing our staff that's presently there to apply to them for a job.
They made
The
indication.
company does long-term care and short-term care rehab on other places too. Bethany Gardens in Rome, Syracuse Sunnyside, Norwich, Valley View. They pay a CNA, which is a certified nurse assistant, $10 to $15 an hour, and LPN $15 to $22 per hour, and RNs $25 to $35 an hour. And most were unions. They get benefits, health care, dental, and vacation.
And not only, one other thing, excuse me, Gary, just before I forget this. Not only are they going to do all that I said, they're going to invest significantly in that building and infrastructure. They're going to dress it up. They're going to make it, you know, do whatever they have to do to attract new clients there. And I was pretty confident in talking to them that, you know, I looked online at their sites, and they're well run. They're well kept. So I feel confident that we've got the right purchaser here. I really do.
What was that company, Gary?
Yeah, hopefully I wrote them down because he was talking to us. Bethany Gardens in Rome.
Yeah, that's what I thought. No, that's fine.
Sunnyside in Syracuse, and Valley View in Norwood, I wrote down.
I looked them up on, they were,
Well run.
yeah.
They're in it to make a money, Mr. Carroll, keep it tight.
They're doing something that we can't do.
Okay, hang on.
I want to clarify one thing, and I know it's hard to believe for some of you, maybe most of you, including some that were rather loud in the hall. This isn't a political, because I'm asking questions, this decision we're going to make tonight and next week is something that will have an impact for decades to come. Because I ask questions, it's not a Democrat, Republican thing, or I'm some kind of obstructionist. And I have said from the beginning, and I got a file full of statements, that I do not think the way it's running now and the cost factor, that is the best for the county to run it. You know how I feel about looking at other options by RFP, but I won't go there again. But I just want to make it clear. I mean, political rhetoric, that's a bunch of bunk. I'm asking questions because a lot of that stuff is new to me, and I submit it's probably new to most of us. And I'm asking questions because this has a long-range impact. And I'm not asking questions for political reasons or anything else. And like I said, I'm not totally against looking at options, and I'm not sure yet if I'm totally against this. There are some things I have a problem with, and I'm going to do a lot more research in the next week. But I just, I sense a lot of animosity because I ask questions. That unfortunately is my case.
Well, there's no animosity, but things that are political, we are trying to keep out of. We got to do this.
What is political about?
I don't know, I'm just saying if there are, that's what we're trying to keep out of. Any other questions? I'd like to go to, yeah.
I got one on this abatement. Let's say this thing goes through, we invest $500,000 to upgrade. For 10 years, that $500,000 is going to be exempt or prorated in. But if we do this for 20 years, I see two dangers. Number one, it's going to make the existing homes in the area non-competitive because they're getting a break.
Not paying any taxes now.
Yeah, there's no taxes.
There's no taxes now.
Well, I know there's.
So you got zero or you got something?
I'm talking business to business. You and I both have a farm, and I'm paying taxes on mine and you're not. That makes me uncompetitive.
Yes, you're right.
that door, I don't think we should open.
Fred, who are you talking about, though?
It's not up to
Who's
us.
not taxable?
Right, I know it's
No,
not
but I
up
mean,
to
who's
us.
not, no, I'm not saying, I'm just saying,
just trying to
I'm asking you the question, who's not taxable?
Pardon?
Who's not taxable?
Well, right now, the building isn't.
No, I'm not saying that, you're saying unfair to other competitors. Who's the other competitor that's not taxable? That is taxable.
Aren't your other homes, when they upgrade, taxable?
My knowledge,
Or
no.
they're nonprofit?
I know before Acacia Village, they kicked their butt before they went to Oneida County, that was not taxable. I'd have to check the others, but my understanding is they're not taxable.
So there's no.
I'd have to check that for you to make sure.
Okay.
I don't want us leaving here with the assumption that everybody else is taxable.
Right, I mean,
I don't think that's true.
concern I had of the competitiveness.
Fred, when Walmart came in, Kmart was at full taxation. They got a break on their taxes for 10 years.
Yeah.
Did Kmart, when they came in, they probably got theirs.
They got theirs.
It's based on, that's what
Right,
I'm
I
saying, so
understand that
any
part.
new business that comes in is entitled to go to the IDA and make it.
Right, but not to open it up for 20 years instead of 10.
Yeah,
Well, no, and Pat,
Again, I'm not speaking for the IDA,
We don't
we've
have
never
anything
done the
to do.
20, I don't foresee it happening, I can't speak,
Right.
I'm speaking for Jim
Other
Bono
than
as
that,
a
I think
member.
this is a decent deal.
And Pat was right, Fred. And I will do that too, Pat. I really, you guys did answer a lot of my questions, and thank you, Rob, for doing that. The one thing I will stress, I will probably vote for this, but I will make the point known that I am not agreeing to that 20-year abatement at all. That is not part of my agreement. I'm voting on the assumption that they might get a tax break, but no 20-year. And I think Pat is correct on, if you don't feel comfortable with that, then make sure that somebody
Make sure you
doesn't.
state that within your vote.
Exactly.
Now, remember though, you gotta state that during the discussion period. You can't say, I'm voting for this and then, because what happens with that is then it goes back to another new vote. So during the discussion period is when you want to say that.
Yeah, you can't qualify your vote.
Otherwise, it's like he said, it's qualifying your vote, which makes it all go back to a vote.
Fun watching the chairman.
Rob, can you point that over there for a second?
I'll make a motion on all three committees to accept the purchase offer.
Okay, so we have one for Ways and Means. Is there a second on Ways and Means?
I'll second.
Okay.
I'll second human resources.
There's a second on Proprieties.
I'll second Proprieties.
There you go.
Okay, any more discussion?
I'd like to make one more statement. There was a motion by the legislature to stop taking on any new clients. And if, we must be, what, 29? We are 20, which is, we're at 35 and we've gone down to 29. So the eventuality of it is, one way or another, we are getting out of the business. One way or another, we are going to get out of the business. And if we decided to get out of the business, enough legislators, it would take only 9 to close the facility. This legislature would only need 9 votes to stop the operation of the country man. So this is the most positive way to get out of the business. I mean, we said we aren't taking it on anymore. That's in effect. And we've gone from 35 down to 29. If this comes unglued and falls apart, or we don't get 12, then the option on the table very well could be a vote to close. And that would be tremendously disruptive, I feel, to a lot of those people. So I think this is a marvelous approach and something that needs to be supported by this legislature. And I hope that their application for the ad beds, does anybody know where that stands? Those applications for Banbury.
Okay, all in favor of Ways and Means?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried.
All in favor of human resources?
Aye.
Opposed?
All in favor of Properties?
Aye.
Any opposed on Properties?
One more Properties.
Yeah, I have a letter here from Kim Enya. This is the Properties Committee. The purchaser that was approved by the resolution on the above-mentioned property has defaulted. It's a sealed bid on 4 East Street in the village of Ilion. They've defaulted. At this time, I would like to recommend that the next highest bid be accepted. It was a single-family residence. Taxes due was $8,926.65. They had a bid of $7,500. That outfit defaulted. The next highest bid is $5,000. So it would continue the process of moving this parcel, hopefully back onto the roll where maybe it can be rehabilitated. So can I have a motion to accept the next highest bid?
Wait, question.
Motion.
Well,
Motion by Bob, seconded by Kurt.
There you go.
Is there any discussion?
Well, sit there for a second,
Second.
right to the place.
Second bidder was who, and who was the
Rob,
first?
just wanted to get that.
The first one was a Howard Mason at $7,500. She defaulted. It's a Kareem Earl, and it's for $5,000.
Do we have addresses on this?
I'm sure Kim does.
You mean on the piece of property? Or on the people?
What I'm getting at is, are there people that purposely bid high to get it, and then the next bidder gets it with
She's from the
with-
Bronx, Jim, if you're wondering. I got the address.
Yeah,
with a family member?
Kareem
I've
Earl.
run into this, I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if...
Yeah, this Kareem Earl is from Baychester Ave, Bronx, New York.
The second?
The second one.
And the first was from...
The second one is a Holly Mason, and I don't know where.
I don't either.
But
You understand what I'm saying? Because
No, I understand
Yeah,
exactly.
that's
Throw Iowa
no,
in
it's-
anything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
It's a sealed bid.
Little
It was a
cahoots.
sealed bid, though.
How would you know?
Yeah,
You wouldn't know who's
Bob,
selling the bid.
you and I.
Oh, there, I see
You
what
bet
you're saying.
8,000, I'll bet
Right,
5,000.
and then I'll back out.
You get it.
What?
I've seen it happen, and I'm just
lowball.
wondering if we have...
No, because you don't know who else.
I think I called it something different than that.
I mean, if it's a single-family residence, it's a single-family residence that's down to $5,000, it's probably urgently in need of rehab. If it doesn't get this rehab, the next option is somebody's got to demolish this thing.
And that's 20
Now you're
At
talking
least we're
Got no problem with
struggling.
it.
We're hoping. And we may still be there with this.
I want people to know...
This may be
that-
another default, we don't know.
or get rid of it.
But I mean, this is Kim's recommendation, so is there, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, so we'll have a resolution on that, Jim.
Either that or it's...
And now, there's nothing else for properties?
Right.
I need a motion to adjourn properties.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Either that or it sits there.
7:58.
Hey, Dennis.
So we have a detention diversion application. And
This is a request by the Department of Social Services. It's an extension of a renewal of a contract we had with Kids Herkimer. Who provided us with a detention diversion program last year. It's kind of an 11th hour thing. I will tell you that the period of claiming for this started April 1st, and we did not get the information or our allocation until August 3rd. Okay, so we're well into it. So what I'm going to pass around to you is I reduced our proposal to a 2-page document here. It just highlights it. Pass it around. And essentially what this is a program that we have in place to divert children from going into non-secure detention. When everyone gets those, I'll go into a little more detail.
Did you have extra?
Did you give me more?
I gave them a bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Got extras?
Message from the phone. I saw this.
Yeah.
Okay. Last year, we have 2 components to this. There's a capped detention allocation, which we pay for the care days, and then there's a component for us to develop a program, which is referenced in the handout, to assist us through the court system and everything else with diverting children from non-secure detention. If you look at the first part of it, you'll see that it lists the care days and the admissions. Okay, we've had pretty good success from 10 to 11 in reducing the care days. Next box down will show you the rise in detention. That's an average daily cost. Okay, and then the next box down will show you what our net savings from 2010 to 2011. So it's like 61,803.
So when we talk about those programs with kids Herkimer and Yorkshire, this is something different?
This is, yes, it is. It uses some of the same components, but it is different programs. Yes. And again, I'll go back to what I said. It was originally $50,000 to 28, 100% state funded. That was last year. This year, there's a local match. Okay, so it actually, to get our 50,000 reimbursement, we're going to have to spend 81,000. I anticipate to cover that savings in the reduction in care days, or certainly in maintaining the level of care days. It brings us from, if you look at the numbers in 2009 and 2010, they're down dramatically.
Is this a mandated program?
This is not a mandated program.
Putting the kids away is a mandate.
Putting the kids away is a mandate, and this is preventing a mandated problem.
So in other words, we're working on this, we're utilizing this to keep them out of something we have to pay more for.
Right.
This is before they go to court, right?
That's what it's been.
That's what this is. This is your non-security pensions, why they're waiting to go in front of the judge.
Correct.
This isn't in placement yet. This is actually prior to.
This is pre-residential and pre-court.
Do we have a contract with one now, a detention now?
It was, they did this for us last year.
I mean, do we have a detention center that we send our kids to?
We use
secured beds.
We use available beds. We do have a House of Good Shepherd contract, but we use available beds because you never know when it's going to happen. You never know.
So the state rate right now is $535 a day.
That's an average of all. What I did is I went through all of the usage and averaged that cost.
Isn't there a state rate if they're not secure?
No, they're all different.
Like
Children's Home is probably a lower cost, but you know that's Jefferson County. Elmcrest is different. House of Good Shepherd is different. Plus, there's different levels of security.
Yes. I'll make a motion to hang on, get a motion. Is there a second? Ways and Means?
Well, how much is it?
I'll do it for both.
How much is the contract?
Is there a second?
I'll second it on Ways and Means.
It'll be.
Lenny will second it on the other.
What's that?
81.
Okay, now we can go for discussion.
And the state gives us back for that. Okay, so what was the local match and the state match?
That's been 81,000, we give 80,000.
Our
What's that?
51.
State share.
Our share, 50.
Reimbursement is 62%.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So you're spending 81 to get 50.
Any other questions?
They said they're going to do 20 kids.
That's the goal.
Will there be more than 20 in the course of the year?
If you look at the numbers, most of the years since 2005 have been, with the exception of 2009.
So what happens with the owners? They just not going to get the service?
We can't provide this. We'll give them services, but it won't be from this particular.
Will we do it in-house for those kids that we can't?
We'll try one of our programs to do it in-house.
Our average kid is staying 9 or 10 days in non-security detention before they make it to court. Is that worth it? Before they're either released or put into an alternative program or a placement or a residential facility.
I'm not sure of the exact number, but that sounds good.
But, I mean, is there any way we can speed that process up? I'm just asking.
That's what this is all about.
Well, that would be the court, not so much the...
It would be, and I've met with the judge. He's been using this program. I would love to speed that process up.
Oh, yeah, I mean, this, I think our turnaround would be 3-4 days. Other counties are much quicker. That's all. I've seen it, a lot of times they're 3 days, 4 days.
Yeah.
And then they make it to court, depending on what.
Is that the court remanding them for, is Is that what we have here?
Yeah, I mean, then it would obviously be released or alternative program of some sort, like we have here.
It's certainly worthy of this program looking into that.
Yeah.
Motion made, that's recorded.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded, Ways and Means, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Human Resources, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Anything else for the committee, Chair?
Motion to adjourn both.
Second.
Okay, motion to adjourn, do we have both on Ways and Means?
No.
I'll second Ways and Means. Motion to adjourn Ways and Means.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Motion to adjourn Human Resources. Opposed? Carried.